Welcome back to the Security Champions podcast. I am your host, Michael Birch, and I'm joined today with Irfaan Santoe, and he is a OWASP chapter leader at the Netherlands OWASP chapter, as well as the founder of the Security Champion Guides project at OWASP. We'll be discussing that today. But before we jump into that, I really want you, Irfaan, to tell me about your security journey. What brought you into security? What have you done? What has brought you to this point where we're talking about champions?
So, Mike, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. And as you rightfully pointed, my security journey started 15 years ago. I graduated as a software engineer with a specialization in AI and advanced analytics. And I got pulled in by an amazing firm, Deloitte. I started to work there for a couple of years. And it was so interesting. I did so many different things with that analytics background, right? Analytics was really seen as an enabler to multiple different problem domains, whether that's IT risk, whether that's cybersecurity, whether that's internal audit, process improvement. So I was plugged in a couple of different projects. And it was a life-changing sort of coaching that I got from one of the senior partners within Deloitte. He actually shared with me, Irfaan, now you're moving your career further within Deloitte. I want you to now focus. You're doing so many different things. You have to make a decision which field you're going to excel at. And that's where I decided to go into cybersecurity. Don't ask me why I made that decision, but I made that decision at that moment. And it changed my life because I'm not sure whether you've seen these memes, right? That are floating on the internet, Mike. So you have people saying, "Show me the truth of cybersecurity." Like it's a request to the Almighty. It's a request to the Creator of the world. And then once that wish is granted, then suddenly that person is starting to see more and more, and the depths of cybersecurity and information security. And I think that really happened with me. So once I rolled into the field of cybersecurity, I never got back. And to be very honest, I went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, became a manager, a security leader, a CISO, and now really I can call myself even an expert within the field of cybersecurity. That means not being only a leader, but I do feel that I'm excelling at specific areas of cybersecurity as well, and still a lot to learn there. So it just gives you and the listeners as well, a view of how fast and vast this field of information security, cybersecurity actually is.
And I think one of the big things, finding specialties in cyber is hard, right? It's not something you can necessarily do right off the bat and know exactly what you want to do. I did the same thing when I got in. I jumped in, I started doing cyber. I'm like, I'm going to be a cyber wizard, right? I'm going to do cybersecurity. And then I got in and they're like, okay, now that you've decided to specialize in cyber, now you have to figure out what you want to do in cyber, because cyber is so massive. Are you going to do incident response? Are you going to be a pen tester? Are you going to do defensive, secure coding? Like, there's so many areas to try to specialize in, right? It can be very daunting as a project as you get into the space, but also really exciting because, once again, once you learn foundational principles in one, you can pivot and apply it to other areas. That's the other great part that I love about this space. There's always areas you can work in outside of what you do specifically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I always, you have folks that come to me and then they ask career advice as well. Okay, how do I navigate through cyber itself? And for me, it's always to ask them the question, but what is it that you want to achieve? Where do you want to be within cyber? And especially when I see that they don't know that well enough yet, then I always advise them to go as broad as possible. That means, looking at the policy side, look at the risk management part of information security, cybersecurity. I think can give you a very good overview of where the risks are for information security. And then you can always pinpoint some of the areas to deep dive, but why is that a risk for this organization? And then who knows, as part of that pinpointing, you might get in love in that domain as well, whether it's endpoint security, as you said, rightfully said, whether that's the network security, whether it's the application security, whether that's the human factor itself, right? So there's so many things. And if you have that broad scope, you'll anyway understand information security in the most broader span, because I do think, I do advise all of my colleagues, my peers, the enthusiasts in information security, cybersecurity, to really try to understand information security in the most broadest sense. You don't have to be a specialist on that generalist and broad domain, no, not at all, but have a common understanding of all the challenges involved with information security. To give you an example, I have huge love and soft spot for our hackers and our pen testers, our red teamers. But I also try to make them even more aware if I'm seeing that that's a lack, to say, yes, it's easy. You just need to find one way to get in. While the whole organization is busy closing all the loops and the holes, the defensive guys, the preventive guys. So I think it gives you a more profound respect of the other domains as well. If you are trying to have a broad enough overview of what it takes to be an information security professional, how hard it is actually to protect an organization from specific threats and attack. So it helps you to also respect the other domains as well. So that's what I advise folks that are looking for mentorship in how to navigate towards this vast majority and broad spectrum of information security that we call cybersecurity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that you can't defend well if you don't understand the offense. You can't be offensive if you don't understand the defense. You have to have an appreciation for both to do well in this space. Because once again, it's understanding that other side that allows you to perform better in that space. Now you're an OWASP chapter leader, which is one of the things I always kind of like pull a string on, because that's really that's a big give back to the community. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of projects. What drew you? What made you want to be a chapter lead over in the Netherlands? What was kind of the thing that brought you to that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. So it was a year of 3-4 ago. The OWASP chapter leader asked me to do a presentation on DevSecOps. Which I did, and I really enjoyed it. And I saw the community. I saw the folks that are spending their free time in making all these things happen for the community, because OWASP is open source. It's a foundation. We're just doing that to give back to the community. And there was an opportunity for me to also contribute as part of the leadership over there. And it appealed a lot to me, the way they were doing, the way they were giving back to the community. But I also saw the opportunity of adding a different angle in what we could achieve and what we did achieve and what we're still achieving with the OWASP chapter in the Netherlands. Because I'm not that typical of a profile, Mike, for application security. There are CISOs involved in application security and OWASP, but not a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So I thought for myself, what is that I will bring uniquely on the table if I would join that leadership team as an OWASP chapter leader? And for me, that was clear cut. I wanted to bring OWASP closer to enterprises, because that's the environment I know very well on multiple levels. So that was the hook for me to say, I can add value over here, not just as an expert of application security, but really to help the OWASP chapter grow further, and therefore the whole global community grow further. Because all these chapters, they're all unique. And if you look at the broader scope of OWASP, what we do, probably they're not that significant. But each chapter itself, if you add them, that's what OWASP is. OWASP is all about the chapters and the different project leaders that do amazing projects, so enterprises and security professionals can consume and get a head start on solving some of these information security challenges.
That's an amazing call out, because one of the things I think that a lot of people have hesitation when they think about, how can I participate? How can I join OWASP? How can I be part of a conference even, right? There's this idea of like, what can I contribute? Maybe I'm not the most absolute top cybersecurity expert in this field. Can I actually bring something worth of value? And you twist that, right? We can approach it from a different thing. Maybe it's not the AppSec that I have to bring. I can bring more value from a different angle that's going to help that group and organization. And maybe it might even be leadership, right? Maybe you have someone who has great leadership skills, maybe stronger than their cyber skills. You can still bring a lot of value that organization needs. So definitely, I always encourage people within your local communities, check out your OWASP chapters. They're amazing resources, amazing places in community.
I mean, you'll be surprised, Mike. So two things on that. By the way, it's very nice that you and I are resonating on that level, right? So one of the first thing I did, I saw that And I'm not sure whether that's a challenge that we have with the broader foundation, but we saw that definitely in the chapters here in Europe, is we're very strong in the content. We're very strong with the network, but sometimes we have a challenge reaching out people. Now, information security and CISO departments are not any different within their organization. It seems like they are lone wolves, yelling and making noise within the organization. We have to do this with security. We have to be more secure. Are you paying attention to this? I think the challenge sometimes is really of communication, Mike. And I don't mean speaking the language of business as a CISO. That's definitely already there. But I'm also talking about how do you bring across the message of security? How do you actually make security sexy, right? I think that is so important. And it is possible. You just need the right people to be able to communicate and message it. So one of the first thing I did, it was just not something that I only enabled, but it was just a mutual thing that happened. There was this one person from the network who's actually a specialist in marketing cybersecurity solutions. And we didn't have a board there, but I saw the opportunity to add that person together to in the board of OWASP and really see whether that marketing lens and person with skill, nothing to do with OWASP or I would even say application security, but somebody that's that passionate about security and giving back to the security community, it really helped us even reach more people within the Netherlands. So, and that's not any different than when you do that sort of enablement within an organization as if you're a CISO. So really pay attention to communication and start adding people that I think that probably are not that savvy yet with information security, but there's so much more that we need to do to get the problem solved than just, I know what the problem is. No, you need to be able to communicate about it as well.
No, that's amazing, and that's such a good drive home. Once again, it is an organization, right? It needs structure. We need supporting factors, not just the experts. I'll tell you right now, developers and security people are great, but if you didn't have anyone else in the business there to help you run the business, we're not going to do anything, right? We need everyone else there to support us to get the job done.
Everyone is as valuable, Mike. Yeah, and this is where I think we need also to change the mindset within our security community to allow other folks with a different background, doesn't have to be a hardcore security background, allow them, nurture them, let them feel welcome. We have a huge shortage in the information security space. I think the prediction is around 8 million jobs that will be there that are not filled in because we don't have the people. There is no other way than allowing them and nurturing them and help them grow, actually. And still, again, their current skill set and background that is not information security related is still of a lot of value within the information security field.
And I don't want to steal too much from our future conversation, but this drives totally something I talked to a lot of my customers about. Because one of the big things I do is we do security training, but I also talk to my customers about running their champion programs and support them in those facets. One of the biggest things I always call out is don't be a gatekeeper, right? Don't just keep the champions to being your IT people. Don't make it just your developers. Open it up. Let people that are non-developers that are passionate about this join in your groups and just learn and be a part of that community. If they want to be in it, don't keep them out.
Yeah, that's an excellent call out, man. Amazing, Mike.
All right, so we're going to jump in. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to do 30 seconds for my sponsor, and then we're going to jump into the main part of this conversation, talking about champions, the Security Champion Program guide, all of that. So once again, be back in about 30 seconds.
Are you struggling to measure the effectiveness of your secure code training? You're not alone. That's why we're proud to share that on average, Security Journey learners increase their knowledge an average of 33 and as much as 85%. Our diverse training content satisfies a variety of adult learning styles. Conversational training videos and hands-on secure coding activities ensure that learners are engaged, no matter their learning style. Visit securityjourney.com to try our training.
All right, welcome back to the Security Champion Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Birch. I'm joined with Irfaan Santoe. He is a Netherlands leader for the OWASP chapter, as well as the founder of the Security Champion Guide, which is what we're here to talk about today. Now, this is an OWASP project to help support Security Champion programs. Irfaan, what was the motivation behind this? What drew you to want to do this project and to build this?
So a great question, Mike. And There's a term that's being used now when you are creating products. It's called product discovery. So now I can relate that I unconsciously did some product discovery about um, security tools, security programs, security frameworks that probably were missing at OWASP. So what happened when I joined the security leadership, the OWASP chapter leadership in the Netherlands, Mike, one of the first thing I wanted to do is just connect more with the enterprises in the Netherlands and in Europe. So I round up a couple of AppSec managers, CISOs in the Netherlands, around 15 of them. And I had just a very candid, open conversation with them. I said to them, we're OWASP, I'm joining the leadership. Um, and I want to hear from you if there's anything that you feel that's missing in the OWASP arsenal of what can help you to be more effective with your AppSec programs, with your apps application security within your organization. What would that be? And the beauty is that Mike, like a lot of them, they knew OWASP. Some of them were not that familiar with all the projects of OWASP. And a couple of them were using a lot of the OWASP projects already within their organization. I'm not talking about only the OWASP Top 10, it was OWASP SAP. You just name it, they were using some of these products. So we had a 2 days sort of breakdown workshop where we brainstormed on some of the ideas of what it is that OWASP was not having as a project. And then we came to around 12 different ideas. And then we rated all these different ideas into the top three. And for me, the idea was to also say, hey, but your organizations over here, you're representing your organization, plus you're consuming OWASP products and programs. Why not want to create such a program yourself, a project yourself? Because it's also about giving back. So 3 of them were selected, and one of them was really about, hey, it would be awesome if we would have something more tangible about security champions programs, like how to start it, how to manage it, but how to maintain it as well. So the origin, Mike, of this idea really came from what we call a product discovery phase, where I had conversations. We really deep dive into what the arsenal is and was, and what was missing from there. So it was really a community-driven outcome for us to do this. And because I already had a background of starting a security champions program and owning the program in one of the largest banks, together with another co-founder of the project, that is Sharon Sur, I reached out to her and I said, this came out of a conversation. I want to do this. Are you in? Like, what are your takes on it? And she just directly said, this is something we need to do, and we just went for it. So that was the genesis of us starting the program. And then there's a whole journey behind it, which probably will come back a little bit later to in this conversation. But that's how it started, Mike.
No, that's great. That's awesome. It's once again, it's the business approach that I think that the organization needs, that OWASP needs to be able to find these projects. And I guess the next step is, once you decide a project to go into, it's now what do you do, right? Because one of the biggest things is, like you said, the first thing you do is like, I need to find people, right? The people that are going to help me with this project. I went and found one person. Now you have 2 people that want to do a project, and you have the local chapter maybe to support you. But what's the next steps of, like, I'm going to be doing an OWASP project and getting the buy-in from the community and getting this all set up?
Yeah. And by the way, that is like, okay, you're a first-time founder. Like, what does the process looks like? It's difficult. I mean, if you're a second-time founder, third-time founder, you know much better how to go about it. But this is because anyway, I didn't participate ever in my life on open source projects, whether it's OWASP or not. So that was anyway the first time I was doing a project that was open source and volunteer-based, Mike. So the good thing is I at least knew very, very quick how to build a team around it. So, we recruited a couple of guys that, were so excited about it as well. We had in total 5 people doing this project. That's how we started, having sessions, getting input, thinking about the problem statement. But the one of the things that really helped me, we also did it very product discovery based, what the guide should be, what the project should deliver ultimately. So we had an interview with around 15 different large to medium-sized organizations across the globe. And one of the organizations was one of the largest banks in Europe, maybe in the world as well. At least it's a top tier bank. And the person that we interviewed over there was a chairman, not a chairman, was a board member of OWASP Global. So he did a lot of work for his security champions with the organization that he had. He also had a flagmanship project himself within OWASP. So I had a conversation with him about security champions, and, get nailing down the problem statement, getting his input. But at a sideline, I also had a conversation with him. What does it take to actually run such a project? So my number one, I would say, most added value guidance that I got speaking to other founders of projects, other folks that are doing these sort of projects for us, because they will tell you what works, what doesn't work, how that's different than doing a project within an enterprise. It is completely different. I can tell you that. So I learned a lot from and till today, Mike, I'm learning. I have not figured out this journey, but I'm surrounded by very motivated, smart people. And the industry is supporting this initiative a lot. We're getting a lot of traction. So yeah, I'm learning by learnings of others, and I'm absorbing their learnings as well as part of executing this project.
That's super exciting, and I think that it's a big thing. It's a startup company, right? Anyone who's ever worked in a startup life, it knows that there's a whole lot that goes into it, and you're figuring things out on the fly, and people are doing jobs that you normally didn't think you might be doing, right? Like, I'm not doing a security job anymore. Now I'm doing product. Now I'm doing design. Now I'm going out and I'm meeting with the customer, doing interviews, like figuring it out as we go along.
Yes.
Very different type of the world. So moving on to the project itself, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what has the project done so far? What's it achieved? Where have you gone with the project?
Yeah. So the first months of the project were really the discovery, and we did it the right way. That's the beauty of it, Mike. We did it the right way. We spent a lot of time debating with each other, what is the project going to be delivering? Of course, we had the title OWASP associated with the project. That was already a huge differentiator, and the reason why, and we all have anonymously, we agree on this one. The fact that your OWASP means, per definition, you're vendor neutral. So we said that's the strongest part that we have, but still we could not figure out ourselves as a project team. And I'm talking about the first 3 to 6 months. We didn't figure out what will make our project different than any other security champions resource that were out there. And there were some beautiful resources out there, right? So think about any vendor in the application security testing space. They already have white papers and blogs written on the topic. We had Chris Romeo that just at that moment released something about his security champion guide / framework that he had. And then something that was very intimidating for all the founders and project leaders of the project was the framework from Dustin Lair as well on Security Champions Guide. It was super intimidating for us. So we asked ourselves the question, how the hell are we going to add on top of all this, beside the fact that we have the OWASP brand with us? Because that's, again, vendor neutral. We can show that we're independent, right? At least that's how we will be perceived. So we spent 6 months really intellectually talking about it, what's going to make us different. And I think that's the right approach, Mike. I think that was really the reason why we are getting so much traction, because we then figured it out. What will make the guide unique is not only the fact that it's vendor neutral. We're going to release a manifesto. Nobody has ever released a manifesto on security champions, right? We have a manifesto on Agile, we have a manifesto on DevOps, we have a manifesto on threat modeling, you just call it, but not on security champions. So the first thing that we knew, we're going to release a manifesto for security champions. Then we also said, okay, as part of that, we're going to give it more meat and body to say, what does a pillar within that manifesto actually means? So why is it important? What is it and how to go about it? And then after we released the manifesto, because that was the first MVP that we delivered, we got a lot of traction, Mike. Really, a lot of folks across the globe reached out to us. Amazing, how can I help, and all these things. So we expanding the project with a couple of more project members, and then we start looking at, okay, how do we work out the why and the how and the what, which we released last year, if I'm not mistaken, last year or this year, beginning of this year. It has not been that long that we've released it. And then we got tons of reaction, but we already knew what would be the next releases that we have to do. One would be maturity model. So, it's not only a guide to just start your security champions program, but how do you maintain it and how do you grow in sort of the effectivity of the program? So we thought of, and this is really, as a team, but Share and Sure really is driving this one to say, we need a maturity model so we can help organizations. So that's one thing that we're currently doing. The other thing is what we call artifacts, because we have seen that in all the organizations that we spoke to, Mike, some of them really have large CISO teams or security teams, right? With a lot of resources. And now you can free up somebody that can do this full time to set up the program, run the program, get the champions together, have these different trainings done, these different talks done, keep them excited. But some of the smaller organizations, they don't have that, but they still have the ambition to have security champions. So we thought, why not ask the community, as it's a community-driven project initiative, why not ask these enterprises that have a head start with Security Champions program to also willing to donate artifacts to us? And what does that mean? If they have already created a Security Champions training program for 2 years, maybe they can donate it to the project, what a typical Security Champions training program could be, or Security Champions training program could be. Maybe they have delivered a business case to their senior management why this project should get a top-down funding and response, and not only a bottom-up. Maybe they have created a profile of that person that's leading the whole community, right? That we call it a dedicated captain. So we thought, why not go back to the community that have already great experience and great Security Champions program, ask them to deliver these artifacts to us. We're going to, of course, completely anonymize it, or they can deliver it to us, removing all, confidential and private information, and then give it back again as the toolkit to the society, to the folks that want to start Security Champions programs. Because I can tell you a secret, Mike, I think we are not even halfway there of the number of organizations that can and should deploy Security Champions programs. So I'm pretty sure that there's so much more that organizations will spin off Security Champions, so many more Security Champions programs will be spun off at different organizations. And there's nothing else better than a OWASP vendor neutral guide that they can use to speed up the process for them. And that's the vision behind the project, Mike. That is what makes us different than any other resources that you'll find there. So it's the maturity model, it's the manifesto, and it's the artifacts. And then we're also working towards creating a very beautiful website as well that will help folks navigate towards where they are at. They have done the maturity assessment. So here are the artifacts that you can help to grow to the next level if you set an ambition. So those sort of things will also embed in the website. And again, this is the vision, and it will take time to execute it because we're not an enterprise. We're all volunteers doing this. Luckily, the team has grown around like 15 volunteers actively working in the project. So we have a lot of momentum, and we are able to execute a lot as well. So that's helping us a lot as well, Mike.
No, that's massive. I will say, I would even estimate that you say like 50% there. I would say that we're like 20% of the way there for all the organizations that should and could and need to be doing this. And here's the thing, though, it's if you were to go a few years back, right, and you were to talk about, I don't know, let's go like 5 years ago, and you were to talk about Security Champions. There's a lot of organizations that would be like, what, right? The awareness of what that was and the impact it would have was minimal, right? I think we're at a phase now where I talk to most leaders, and if I say Security Champions, because one of the first things I ask when I talk to an organization is, are you doing a Champions program, right? One of the first things they ask, because their response immediately tells me where they are in their security posture in total, right? Because the moment you say 90% of the time it's, no, but we want to, or we're just trying to figure out how to find the right people. Like the first thing, how do I find the right people? How do we get started, right? So I think that this project's coming in at such a beautiful moment because the awareness is there now. There's nobody that tells me, no, I don't know what's a champions program. I don't get that. I never get that. I think the awareness is there, but the tools and the understanding of how to do it, that's what's lacking. So I think this project's going to have such a great impact at this moment in time, right? It's one of those few moments in time where everything's kind of lining up, right?
Lining up, yes, exactly. No, I think you're right, Mike. I think you're completely right. And that's also one of the reasons why we're getting so much traction. It's like to be very honest, in terms of talking about products, it feels like we have found product market fit. It's like there's such a
Mhm.
huge demand on folks asking us. We have like 4 or 5 large enterprises lined up to say, tell me when you're ready with your maturity model. I'll be a beta tester of your maturity model. It's amazing of the traction that we're getting. And I think it's really purely because the market is expanding, right? The number of organizations that want to set up security champions program is expanding. And people are seeing it is paying off as well. I mean, I know one organization, beside the fact that, I came from the bank where Che and I did this, and then there's one more reason, actually, a personal note why I did this, actually, Mike. It's quite funny. So I was working at the ABN AMRO Bank. It's one of the largest banks in the Netherlands, the third largest banks in the Netherlands. I was part of the security leadership there. And I was head of security engineering. That means I had 45 security engineers reporting to me that would help 500 plus dev teams. They were not DevOps yet. They were transforming to DevOps as well, but 500 plus dev teams into building in security from the start of any new features they're building. So you could say 45 security engineer, man, you'll make a dent with that. But we were unable to serve all these 500 different teams, right? Even if you do it risk-based, still it was a big challenge because the pace at which these developers would develop code and push it to production, you can never, match that space, even if you have a full-time security engineer with them. It's that difficult. So Sayan actually came with the idea to say, hey, we should do something with security champions. And I, as a manager, I just supported that process and I said, yeah, just go and try it. And then after a couple of weeks, months, Mike, it's beautiful. She invited me into a room with a kickoff of a couple of security champions. I thought, we're just going to inspire them and just motivate them what it is to be a security champion. We had a great speaker, by the way, amazing speaker that was lined up to inspire them. And I entered that room, Mike, and I saw 65 security engineers in that room. I didn't count them at that time, but that's the number that was given to me afterwards. So I added the numbers, 45 plus 65 is 110. It's 110 engineers. Then I thought, now my arsenal is 110 engineers big. This is how I saw the opportunity to say, this is the way to scale this is the way of scaling your security knowledge from your security department to the development community. And it's not the only reason why you should have a security champion, but at that moment, that was for me the eye-opener. So that also made me believe very strongly in this project for OWASP, because I could carry on some of the experience I had from the bank towards this project as well, to say this is what I am excited about solving as OWASP for the community as well.
Yeah, and the term I like to use, so I come from a military background, and the term I like to use about this is called force multiplier, right? It's the idea that we're taking a small team and we can have a massive impact by training and evangelizing and getting a larger group of people to support what you're trying to accomplish, right? And the same type of idea of what we do with the champion programs. We take this small security team and we try to evangelize and train and expand and be a force multiplier within our organizations, because we will always be at the disadvantage to production. The amount of security people will never match. We will never get close to matching. And to be honest, the way I like to propose it, like, it's turning on the head. To be honest, the engineers, the ones building the product, they're actually the security engineers. I'm like a spot checker, right? I run a tool. I come and teach you about some stuff. I come and check to make sure the stuff is good, but I don't build authentication for you. I don't build input validation. I don't build or configure the security configuration for your system when you set up your pipeline. Those are the actual engineers doing the work. I'm there to support those processes and make sure they're happening and to help that process, right? But to be honest, the engineers are the biggest part of our security team, and like that's how we should view them and embrace them. And if there's just gaps in that security team, we need to figure out how to fill those gaps and how to help support them to make sure they're doing their job well.
Perfect. And I think there's sometimes also a very negative connotation to the word program, security champions programs, because when you say program, it seems like it has a start and an end in mind. And I do see, rightfully so. I would not critique them. I think it's rightfully so that I'm seeing some of the application security leaders within the industry challenging the concept of security champions program a lot. I've seen that. I'm pretty sure you have met them as well, Mike. They are out there. And we're not even talking about CTOs, we're not even talking about IT engineers. We're talking about our own security folks or AppSec folks that are not believing in this, right? Um, I think the argument that I always have is yes, it's a program and probably it has an end, a start date, but I don't believe it has an end date because we are definitely not yet at nirvana of what security automation is for us. To be able to make sure that IT engineers have to think lesser about security because automation is taking care of whatever they have to do, right? Whether it's the secure by default sort of settings that they cannot override, it's there, or whether that's automated threat modeling, whether that's you know IS, DAS, SAS, it doesn't matter how well these tools will perform until the automation is not perfect. You still need human being to think about what it is that you have to. So hence, you need a program for these, I would say very appreciated engineers to be able to pick up on that security task that there exists, right? Or even spread that knowledge within their team so their teams can pick that up. Until then, there is a program. But then, even then, if there's automation of Nirvana, Mike, look at the evolvement of cybersecurity over the last 20 years. It was very much focused on antivirus. It was very much focused on firewalls. And now the threat landscape and the attack factor has increased so significantly that we have to take different measures of security. We'll have to implement new sort of automations. So I don't believe the cybersecurity threat landscape and attack surface will stay static even from the day of today. So it will always be evolving. So you'll always be behind of your automation, in my opinion. At least it will take a long time before there are, robots and AI in such a way that they can learn, in such a way that they can automate themselves what needs to be automated. Before that happens, you still need the human shield. You still need our champions. You still need our engineers that understand this is a point where I'm making a mistake, or this is a point where I think, when I'm introducing a vulnerability or I'm introducing a loophole into the system, let's try to close it. And that's where the champions come into the game.
And I love the way you called that out too, because there's the reality, right? There's this idea is like, well, we'll be able to eventually automate security. That's under the concept that if security is increasing and then the attackers just decide they're going to not change, they're just going to sit there and wait and like, oh man, you caught us, we're done. Like that's not a reality. As the technology increases that allows us to better defend, that same technology is going to enable the offensive side and the people we're defending against to do new, unique, and novel ways to attack. It will never be we've figured out all security, game over, we won, right? It will always be a battle, right? And that's a reality of it. Yeah. And champion programs are great. And the best part about that here's the part I really like about why I think champion programs are successful the way they are versus other approaches we've taken, right? We have tool automations. So we have a lot of tools out there that catch everything out there under the sun that try to help you do stuff. We have different programs of security audits. We have people that do pen testing. We have people that come in and try to do these other tasks for us. But the reason champions are so successful is because it's about behavior change. It's about mentality change. It's about not just, I taught you how to find secure coding, right? It's I've taught you to have a security mindset. And I've made you evangelize to make you understand why it's important and care about it, right? So now when people in our organization actually care about the security and they want to put security into their products and do these things, that's where the power comes from. Because I can teach people to do things all day long, but until I get somebody to actually care about something and change their actual behavior, it won't be effective, right? And that's some of the biggest behavior change is one of the biggest problems to solve within the security space itself, right? And that's not just AppSec, right? That's all security space, right? That's why do we have phishing emails that go out and test you to make sure that you're not going to click on links? It's not because you didn't take your annual training. I guarantee everyone took their annual training, but behavior change is hard, right? We have to find new and novel ways to do that. And security champions are a great way to instill behavior change across the organization.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, so far, this is my favorite quote of the podcast that we had. I think this is spot on, Mike, and I love it. I always remember Bruce Snyder when people talk about behavioral change, because there's a lovely quote of him. He's saying, it's amateurs that hack systems, professionals hack human. That's where it is, right? So, and what he means with that, it's far more difficult to change the behavior of people as well, right? That's my read to it. And I think CISOs would completely agree with you, Mike, because, yes, it's about closing the loopholes in the systems and the technologies and all that. But if you look at the most important job of CISOs is really to move the organization behavior from less of security to more security. It doesn't mean security is the most important thing. That's not what it's about. But at least changing the IT leadership, at least changing the business leadership, their mindset and their behavior towards security. I think that is what a key role of the CISO is. So yeah, I would say it's probably the closest to what a CISO would like to achieve. And a security champion program can definitely help in that sort of transformation.
So as we're moving along, talk about the program, talk about the project. Is there any other type of insights or cool things that's happened along the way that you want to share about this project?
I think I've touched upon most of them, but one that I'll zoom in a little bit more is how it's bringing the community more together, Mike. So it's beautiful in this journey. I've spoken to most of the folks that have written anything on the topic of security champions, folks that were internally focused on setting up security champions program for very large, beautiful, large enterprises, going to the outside of the world, telling about it, helping our projects. I see that it is also a way, and maybe that's OWASP, Mike. I don't think this would happen if it would have more like a commercial angle to it, or it doesn't even have to have a commercial angle. Even if it would have the name that is commercially tainted, probably people would not do it. But I see that folks, they believe in the cost of giving back. So, and I think that's the power of OWASP, man. That's drew me to OWASP. Give not all my time, but give significant part of my time and efforts back to the community through OWASP. And I see that's happening with other professionals as well, where they are seeing this as a great opportunity to give back to the community, security community, and the vehicle is OWASP. And I really like to call that out. I think people are not always understanding or appreciating a gap that OWASP is filling into the information security community. It's not only about the great frameworks and the great technologies and the great guides that we're issuing. Yes, absolutely, that's a gap. But there's another gap, and that's, I wouldn't even call it a purpose, but think about how do you get fulfillment out of being a security professional? And I see that some of these professionals are getting that fulfillment by collaborating together with OWASP. And by the way, there are more organizations, security organizations out there that folks are giving their free time and getting that fulfillment out. But OWASP is definitely one. I've definitely tasted this with our project as well, seeing how many volunteers are actively participating, and big love for them.
It's that community, right?
That's community.
And that community is so important. That's that huge drive home there, because it doesn't, as a security professional, I can live in my island with my small security team and do my work. And there's some fulfillment to that. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy my paycheck. I enjoy doing my job. I enjoy all the stuff that comes with it. But having that community that we build out, having these people that are passionate, right? Because you don't necessarily, that's when you find passion. The people that are willing to go out of their way and volunteer for things and do things on their free time and be part of this, those are where you find the people that are really passionate about this. And when you just know when you sit in a room and you talk with somebody that's actually passionate about something, that it's a whole nother level. You walk away feeling great, where sometimes I'll tell you, as security people, maybe we don't always walk away feeling great from all the conversations we have on a regular basis, right? There's not a lot of positive feedback loops. It's either, oh, it's silent, must mean I'm doing good and things are going well, or, oh no, I'm getting feedback, this probably isn't going well. So having that community and finding those people that are passionate and able to connect with, that's what drives us going forward, right? It's such an important factor.
It is spot on, and it's an enabler for folks like me as well, right, Mike? Because yes, sooner or later somebody else needs to carry on the waters, right? So it's also a great enabler for me to see whatever we have created, it's picking momentum. There are other leaders stepping up and trying to really take the project to the next level. No, that's really amazing. And talking about being passionate, that's one of the pillars of the Security Champions Guide, right? It's part of the manifesto. Be passionate about security. If you're not passionate about security, how are you going to be able to even argue that you need a Security Champions program? At least you need to be passionate about that. And it has different manifestations, which we are now figuring out and exploring as part of the maturity model. So how do you measure that you're passionate about security? Like that's that sort of conversation we're having now internally within the project teams.
Yeah, and those aren't easy problems to solve, right? Like finding passionate people. Like one of the ones that, like, small tangent. One of the small things people ask me, like, "Hey, how do I find my first champions program?" Of course, I'm going to say, "Well, you can use my product. Let's do something that gets people to engage, right? Because it's my product, and we try to instill that, right?" But one of the ways we do that is like, hey, let's kick off a tournament and see who volunteers. First step, just let's find people that will volunteer to do something about security and have an interest. That's your first thing. Find people that are willing to give their free time. It goes back to like those people willing to show a little passion. Yeah, amazing ideas about all this. Well, I think we're kind of coming down to the end of the Security Champion or the Security Guide conversation. I will say this, what we didn't do this conversation is deep dive into every part of the Security Guide. What I want people to do coming out of this is the project's there. It's an amazing support. This is things you should be doing in your organization. Go check out the project. If nothing else, go see those resources. Go look at the manifest. Go look at these maturity models that are coming out and understand how your organization is going to be lining up. And if you do have the passion and the time, support some of these projects. If you have a champions program, which I know a lot of my listeners do have champions programs that they're running, reach out to this project, see how you can give back to this, because the more you give back, the better the project becomes, the more you'll get back in return. That's the way these projects work. That's why open source works so well, because the more we give to it, the better it gives back to us. All right,
Thank you so much for that call out, Mike. Thank you so much. That's really appreciated. And the more the merrier. There will be a multiplier effect. And don't worry about scaling the project. We have the right skill at the back end to scale the project with a number of people. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to jump on, sharing your knowledge, talking about this project. I want to also thank my guests for jumping in, listening to us. Thank you for giving me your time, and take these ideas, go apply them, go research into these projects. And like I always say, remember, security is a journey, not a destination.